Today's episode is sponsored by our friends at Famous Faces and Funnies. Check out them on Whatnot as well as Facebook Live auctions. Alrighty, hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Codenamed New 202, the Gen X for Gen X channel. I'm your presenter, Shabu Are You. Well, we're going to do our monthly comic book pickup episode where we feature some of the things I picked up during the course of the month. This is a great segment of, through the years, a lot of viewers have suggested a few things, so I'm always appreciative of that. This also is the end of the month of March and also Ramadan Mubarak or Eid Mubarak. A lot of people ask me, what is the purpose of, why do you guys keep fast for the entire month of Ramadan? And just to educate people, it's actually a humbling way to remind ourselves why we are so fortunate to have the food on the table, water, clean water to drink. So it's truly a cleansing and humbling experience. Basically, don't take for granted all the little things that you have in life. And remember those who do not have those things. So that's why people keep fast during the month of Ramadan, and why Eid is equivalent to Passover or Easter or Christmas, or it's a big holiday. But anyway, so what we have today to showcase with Resident Evil Code Veronica in the background is a nice collection of some of the regulars and some new stuff. Some really important modern reissues, because usually when Marvel and DC do reissues, they're doing stuff from the 60s or, stuff from the maybe 50s even. So it's not often we get or 70s as well. So they get like quote unquote modern books that have been reissued, that these are high. Now, there'd be high priced, highly expensive books. It's nice that Marvel and DC are both reissuing these iconic books, so there's no fear of damaging expensive paper. And I think that's the way comic books are meant. Now, that's another question to you guys. Do you read on digital, or do you prefer, like me? I mean, I never got into the digital thing. I mean, when I was doing the GI Joe issue recaps, everything was done through digital, and that's because you take pictures and editing and stuff like that. It was a lot easier than actually taking an actual picture with your camera. And that's how I started doing this. So it makes it easier in that sense. But as far as like reading comic books or whatever, I have to have or feel the book in my hand. So that's something that I don't think a tablet can replace. So anyway, let's dive into this month's books. We got a few, and let's get started. Here we go. Alrighty, so the first book we're going to showcase is Amazing Spider-Man number 129. This is the reissue of the first appearance of Punisher. Well, recently we have just seen Punisher return to Daredevil, Born Again. We see Frank Castle talking to Matt Murdock. Actually, Matt Murdock comes and consults with Frank Castle and looks really grimy and like he's been in the cellar for quite a long while. But that's kind of spiked the entrance of this issue once again. And there's also been news that just like Werewolf by Night, the Punisher is going to get a special Marvel special presentation featuring him. So there's going to be more to what's in store for the Punisher. I don't know if he's going to transition into the MCU movie, but I like what they're doing with Daredevil Born Again. It has recaptured that whole Netflix era of just, it feels like it's still like low budget grimy, but with the extra money that they're putting in, it's just making it a lot better. Like, example would be like Daredevil swinging from the skyline. With the Netflix budget, they couldn't really. They would do close up shots. They couldn't do far away shots because that required money. You could fake doing something up front, and where the audience can't distinguish. But I think it's an excellently done show. A lot of people have been there's not been enough Daredevils, so to speak. Because Matt Murdock has been primarily featured in these first few episodes, but that is going along with the comics that they kind of pulled these things from. We have Apocalypse, which was the Daredevil, which is kind of based around this, where Kingpin knows of Daredevil's background. The actual the Daredevil Born Again, the comic issue, is kind of vastly different from the TV show. So, yeah, they share the same names, but that issue has a completely different story arc than what the show entails. So that could sometimes be misleading. Like, the whole show is based on like three or four issues, 4 issues of the Daredevil story, like the Apocalypse, and all the other stuff, the Frank Miller side. So it's still cool. I think it's I'm engaged, and like I said, it gives me hope. So I think that's why this issue has been spiking. It's worth picking up this reissue. It looks cool. It grades cool, and it's just one of those great issues. Now, grading these things, the reason why they're really expensive, not only because of the Punisher, but because of that yellow cover. So that 70s ink and the paper, the newspaper print, these things would smear, and they were like a pain in the ass. So getting high grades on the actual issue is really a achievement and a task all to itself. So, Amazing Spider-Man number 29. Our next is no big secret. We have G.I. Joe issue number 4. Now, this is the Joshua Williamson version, not the Larry Hama. And I'm interested to see or hear what people think of this so far. I've been I read a few. I'm really far behind. I'm going to be honest, because I'm still going through Cobra Commander, Duke, Destro, Scarlet, and then I think you're supposed to read this. So I haven't finished with those yet, but I did read issue 1, and I don't know. I'm feeling like, here's the thing. And my regulars will attest to that. I've been through like the Paul Lure series, like all the non-Larry Hama G.I. Joe stuff, and everyone's trying to take a different spin. And initially, they make the team small, and that's probably makes it easier for them. But they always have a smaller team, and they kind of like, even like G.I. Joe Renegades, it just seems like what everything taken from G.I. Joe past Larry Hama, maybe past the Sunbow series, has shown them shrinking down the team. And I kind of think that takes away from a lot of what made G.I. Joe so interesting. Is like, an episode, like if you go back to the Marvel run, maybe this issue there'll be a whole different set of people versus this issue, then that issue. I'm sorry, I can't talk today. Over another issue, the previous issue, or the issue coming up, and then the special missions edition would have another group of G.I. Joes. But the stories were all like compelling and interesting. It wasn't focused. It feels like a sitcom kind of like, and I mean, that's my initial like dip my toe into the water assessment of this. I'm wondering what other people think. So if you've been keeping up with everything better than I have, I would love to hear what you think of this new G.I. Joe. So G.I. Joe issue number 4. And with that said, we jump into the Larry Hama one. And this is issue 313. I love that cover of Destro and Cobra Commander battling it out. Because they're not friends. They never have been friends. And that's what I think the Sunbow series, the cartoon series, kind of failed. In the comic books, it was business. That's it. They weren't friends. It was a business relationship. Purely business relationship. Their ideals were different, and Destro is a noble guy. He's not a guy who will stab you in the back. Cobra Commander will stab you in the back. Destro will at least tell you to turn around and face him before doing anything. So he had some sense of honor. And that's what I love about Destro and how Larry Hama's version of Destro portrays him. I think that's so far in that Destro, going back to the previous issue, that Destro series, so far it's been interesting. I think that's pretty good. It shows Destro a little bit different. But again, you have to go into it with an open mind. So I know I sound like a Larry Hama fanboy, but I am open minded. I went through all those years of the different side G.I. Joe stories. There was that weird one. What was it? I can't remember off the top of my head. But it looked like man, I gotta think of it. But that was pretty. It was so bad that they stopped it after issue 5 because it was just terrible. I gotta bring it up. I gotta look it up again. But yeah, that was another G.I. Joe spin-off comic series that wasn't written by Larry Hama. So, Real American Hero issue number 313. And then we also got issue number 314. And I like this cover as well. These cover artists are pretty good. I'm kind of liking their... It's weird because, I asked John Royal, who was, trending highward to the end of the IDW run, why he hasn't come back. I know he did a couple exclusives with G.I. Joe covers. I think, what is it, Matthew Studios or something like that. But he did Matthew Mayhem, and East Side Comics. I think he did exclusives for them. But he hasn't appeared as one of the regular variants coming from the comic book company. So G.I. Joe issue number 314. And while I do this, with all the tariffs, I'm going to say it right now. I'm not trying to be political, but the point is that expect prices for comic books to go up because all that stuff, a good 70% of comic books are printed in Canada. So the tariffs that, some orange hair guy in Mar-a-Lago, who's never worked an honest day in his life, all these tariffs are going to affect us in the comic book world as well because you're going to see our comic book prices go up. So the next one is going to be Thundercats issue number 12. And I love this Shitara cover. This is an excellent cover. It's like she's on the edge, ready to, like a cheetah would, looking down in the Sahara at its next victim. So this is a beautiful, beautiful cover. Then on the back of it is issue number 13. This has been one of those series that's kind of gone below the radar. Everyone's focusing on Transformers and G.I. Joe. But Thundercats has been one of the pleasant surprise as far as these 80s IPs coming back in comic book stories. It's been a really good, engaging story so far. And in 13 issues strong, it's still holding up. It's a lot of fun, and I highly recommend, which I do every month. Now, here's the new one. Ironically, we're piggybacking off of Thundercats, and rightfully too, Silverhawks issue number 1. This is the variant cover featuring the Lady Silverhawk. I don't know I know who she is. I don't know much about her. I remember watching I got to do a refresher of Silverhawks, but it's been such a long time. But Thundercats and Silverhawks come from the same family tree as far as the producers, Lansing and Bass. I think these were the last two things, and they were the same people that created those iconic claymation Frosty the Snowman and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeers we watch every Christmas. So they're part of the same family tree, believe it or not. And I think their last big thing was Silverhawks, because Thundercats came first, and then Silverhawks came after Thundercats, and then they kind of dissipated and no longer a big player as far as children's animation and stuff like that. But yeah, this is one of those things that I'm looking forward to. I think the cover alone is epic. I mean, that's a beautiful cover. So I'm so glad to pick this one up. So our next book is Amazing Spider-Man number 69. That's from Happy Gilmore. Anyway, this is an homage to Secret Wars number 8, which I have back there, and I'll show it up here. So this is like, the funny thing is this is one of the top 5 trending. People are still picking this book up. Prices have fallen a little bit. I'm talking about Secret Wars number 8. But still, this is one of the heavily homaged covers. There's a Snake Eyes one of this that's absolutely amazing. And this one is also really compelling. I love it. Again, I was able to meet Zeb Wells. Even though his run on The Amazing Spider-Man was kind of disappointing. We have a new team on here, so it's time to give them a chance. So far, Amazing Spider-Man has been pretty good. Nothing too grand, nothing too low, but it's a nice, steady thing so far. So I'm interested to see where this story arc goes. But again, this is one of the variant covers, and I had to pick it up because it is an homage to Secret Wars number 8. Now, that gives me another thing. Like, what are the top 5 covers of the Gen X lifetime? You're talking about, so I think this would be probably in the top 3. Everyone remembers when this issue came out. Everyone remembers when the Amazing Spider-Man issue 300 came out. Of course, G.I. Joe issue number 1 would be one up there, but there's a few of them that are just like, even your average person, like, oh yeah, I remember that. So I'm wondering what would be your top 5 Gen X era comic book cover. So if you hear this, think about it, write it on the thing below. I'm legitimately interested to know, what you consider to be the top 5 most impactful or important covers that pop culture people know. There you go. Your average person would know. All right, so our next one is another reissue, and I'm talking about Adventures of Batman issue number 12, the first appearance of Harley Quinn. Now, in our collection, we've showcased Harley Quinn's second appearance and her third appearance. So I have second and third. This is one of the ones that I am going to be trying to track down, because it is it's funny how Harley Quinn's her entire evolution, introduced as a TV character and then being adopted over into the comics. And even though they tried it with what was that girl's name? Livewire on the Superman animated series, the same result didn't transpire. So if you guys remember my PGX grade unboxing, we looked at Livewire, which is the equivalent for Superman. It was a female character created for the animated series that didn't catch on. But in Harley Quinn's case, it resonated so much so that she's in movies, she's in, the regular comic book series. It's amazing, this character's evolution. I think no other character has had that. So that's what makes this book compelling. And remember, this whole series was written for children. So they didn't have that many print runs as the regular Batman series did at the time. There was a little bit of a lower print run because it was geared for younger readers. So it's just amazing now the prices for these have just skyrocketed. Alrighty. So the next book we're going to take a look at is Absolute Batman #5. Again, this has been one of those amazing books of 2025. I have been a big fan of this because, like I've said in the other months, that it just takes the whole Batman narrative and kind of twists it around. Like, things that you know are no longer that, but they're familiar in the sense that, the players, but their roles are completely different from what we've known all of our time. So if you're not reading this, shame on you. This is a good, fun read. And, we're still young into this. And then I heard they're going to bring in Absolute Flash, Absolute Martian Manhunter. So there's going to be a whole Absolute universe that's going to be expanded upon by this. And it's just going to be interesting how that world take shape, because you have your main timeline and then you have your absolute timeline, and basically that's what DC is doing. They have those two and that's about it, so and now in the normal Batman run, Hush is coming back, so there's a lot of Batman excitement going on. And it's time, if you haven't read Batman in a while, to get back into Batman, because it has been really fun, really exciting. I can't wait. All right, so our next pickup is kind of not a comic book, but still, if you watch me doing the graded on magazines and magazine pickups, it's noteworthy. So this is Nintendo Power. What year is this from? I want to say 2002. So this is Nintendo Power, and it features Kobe Bryant on the cover. Now, sadly, Kobe Bryant had passed away in 2020, but it's just his Sports Illustrated covers that have been trending up, but also his non-Sports Illustrated covers, like SI for Kids, his Nintendo Power cover. This has been trending like pretty high there, because it's the first time Kobe Bryant pictured in his game form. So I think this is another interesting book that's going to be sent over for grading, and I'm excited what type of reaction it gets once it comes back slabbed and graded. So that's going to be quite fun. And the last thing we're going to showcase is this Beatles songbook from 1965. Now, this is an interesting pickup at a yard sale because it has music in it. So it's basically pictures of the Beatles. I don't know if you can. I gotta be careful because it's old. But it also has sheet music and song lyrics and notes for all the songs. I mean, this is like amazing, and it's definitely going to get graded, and it needs to be preserved. But this is the Beatles songbooks. You have I Feel Fine, She's a Woman, I Followed the Sun, I'm a Loser, No Reply, I'll Be Back, Babies in Back, Mr. Moonlight. So this is very early pre-Ed Sullivan show era of the Beatles. So I'm definitely excited for this pickup. Look at this. It's printed in Miami Beach by Hanson Publications. See, this is why I love this hobby, is because it's not just, it's history you could feel. And that's what makes this stuff fun. I mean, I do have some Life magazines, and I'll do another episode about that. But, I want people to get interested in this as well. It's not just comics and figures and action figures and toys and games and stuff. But that's pretty much why I wanted to show, because this is all a part of our growing up. We were the children of parents that, you know, went Beatle crazy or Elvis crazy. They were around when the Kennedy assassination took place, you know, and I think that's all of that stuff kind of makes us as Americans, you know, that our parents went through that and we all went through that through them. So that's why I wanted to showcase this stuff. Anyway, thanks for watching this short episode, and let me know, like I said, your top 5 covers for the Gen X era, and I'm interested to read everybody's results. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next time. Have a good week.